Morning, everybody. Welcome back. Today is Monday, November 18th, 2019. We're going to start Chapter 11 today, B2B e-commerce, supply chain management, and collaborative commerce. I just want to mention that I did not get Chapters 10 homework assigned, so therefore, obviously, it will not be due this week, so I apologize about that. So what I'll do is I'll get Chapters 10 homework assigned this week along with Chapter 11's homework, and I will make the adjustments here in Moodle as far as what's due and when it's due. So what we'll do is just make Chapter 10 homework due the week after Thanksgiving break along with Chapter 11 homework. So that way it'll give you all this whole week and all of next week on your break to complete those assignments. So once again, I do apologize for not getting Chapter 10 homework assigned this past week. Like I said, I will be assigning it this week. So once again, remember, Chapters 10 and 11 homework will be due after Thanksgiving break. We will be getting through Chapter 11 this week. And once again, so that'll cover all content for this course, other than the content that we'll have in the videos that we'll be watching on Jeff Bezos and Mark Zuckerberg. So with that being said, I'm going to go ahead and get into Chapter 11. We'll start off with what our learning objectives are for this chapter. They're going to be to define B2B commerce and understand its scope and history, understand the procurement process, the supply chain, and collaborative commerce, identify the main types of B2B e-commerce, net marketplaces, and private industrial networks, understand the 4 types of net marketplaces, identify the major trends in the development of net marketplaces, identify the role of private industrial networks in transforming the supply chain, and understand the role of private industrial networks in supporting collaborative commerce. Now, in 2012 and 2013, the most important themes in B2B e-commerce involve growing industry concern with supply chain risk and volatility, along with growing public concern about the accountability of supply chains, violations of developed world expectations of working conditions in the third world factories that play a key role in the production of goods sold in more developed countries. Now, supply chains can strengthen or weaken a company depending on a number of factors. These factors relate to supply chain efficiency such as community engagement, labor relations, environmental protection, and sustainability. So we'll start off on 11.1 on page 415, B2B e-commerce and supply chain management. So the trade between business firms represents a huge marketplace. The process of conducting trade among business firms is complex and requires significant human intervention and consumes significant resources as well. Some firms estimate that each corporate purchase order for support products costs them on average at least $100 in administrative overhead. Now, administrative overhead is going to include processing paper, approving purchase decisions, spending time using the telephone and fax machines to search for products and arrange for purchases, and arranging for shipment and receiving the goods. Even if just a portion of internet firm trade were automated, then trillions of dollars might be released for more productive uses. Consumer prices potentially would fall, productivity would increase, and the economic wealth of the nation would expand. This is the promise of B2B e-commerce. The challenge of B2B e-commerce is changing existing patterns and systems of procurement, and also designing and implementing new internet-based B2B solutions. Defining and measuring the growth of B2B commerce. Now, before the internet, business-to-business transactions were referred to simply as trade or the procurement process. Now, total inter-firm trade refers to total flow of value among firms. Now, today we use the term B2B commerce to describe all types of inter-firm trade to exchange value across organizational boundaries. B2B commerce includes the following business processes insofar as they are interfirm trade: customer relationship management, demand management, order fulfillment, manufacturing management, procurement, product development, returns, logistic transportation, and inventory management. Now we use the term B2B e-commerce or B2B digital commerce to describe specifically that portion of B2B commerce that is enabled by the internet. The links that connect business firms and the production of goods and services are referred to as supply chain or the supply chain. Supply chains are a complex system of organizations, people, business processes, technology, and information, and all of which need to work together to produce product efficiently. Today, supply chains are often global, but they are also local and national in scope. So what is the evolution of B2B commerce? B2B commerce has evolved over a 35-year period through several technological-driven stages. Figure 11.1 on the top of page 417 shows the evolution of the use of technological platforms in B2B commerce. So in 1970 and on, there was automated order entry systems. They have slowed down a little in the mid-90s to 2000, but they continue to go. Electronic data interchange, EDI, which started in the late 1970s and early 1980s, and it continues on until today. Digital storefronts, which was started in the mid-1990s. Private industrial networks, which was started in the early 2000s. Net marketplaces, which was also started in the early 2000s. And then social networks, which was started a little after 2010. So each of these stages is going to reflect the major change in technology platforms, from mainframes to private dedicated networks and to the internet. So the first step in the development of B2B commerce in the mid-1970s was obviously the automated order entry system. That involved the use of telephone modems to send digital orders to healthcare products companies such as Baxter Healthcare. By the late 1970s, a new form of computer-to-computer communications called electronic data interchange, or also known as EDI, this is when this emerged. EDI is a communication standard for sharing business documents such as invoices, purchase orders, shipping bills, product stocking numbers, and settlement information among a small number of firms. Now, all large firms have some form of an EDI system. Electronic storefronts emerged in the 1990s, along with the commercialization of the internet. B2B electronic storefronts are perhaps the simplest and easiest form of B2B e-commerce to understand, mainly because they are just online catalogs of products made available to the public marketplace by a single supplier. Now, this is similar to Amazon for the B2C retail market. Net marketplaces emerged in the late 1990s as a natural extension and scaling up of the electronic storefronts. The essential characteristic of a net marketplace is that they bring hundreds to thousands of suppliers, each with electronic catalogs, and potentially thousands of purchasing firms, and they're gonna put them into a single internet-based environment to conduct trade. Now, private industrial networks also emerged in the late 1990s, and these were as natural extensions of EDI systems and the existing close relationships that developed between large industrial firms and their trusted suppliers. Private industrial networks, which are sometimes also referred to as private trading exchange or PTX networks, are going to be internet-based communication environments that extend far beyond procurement to encompass supply chain efficiency enhancements and truly collaborative commerce. Private industrial networks permit buyer firms and their principal suppliers to share product design and development, marketing, inventory, production scheduling, and unstructured communications. So what are some of the potential benefits and challenges of B2B e-commerce? Internet-based B2B commerce promises many strategic benefits to participating firms, both buyers and sellers, and impressive gains for the economy as a whole. B2B e-commerce can lower administrative costs, lower search costs for buyers, reduce inventory costs by increasing competition among suppliers, and reducing inventory to the bare minimum. Lower transaction costs by eliminating paperwork and automating parts of the procurement process. Increase production flexibility by ensuring delivery of parts just in time. Improve quality of products by increasing cooperation among buyers and sellers and reducing quality issues. Decrease product cycle time by sharing designs and production schedules with suppliers. Increase opportunities for collaborating with suppliers and distributors. Create greater price transparency, which is the ability to see the actual buy and sell prices in a market. Increase the visibility and real-time information sharing among all participants in the supply chain network. Now, while there are many potential benefits to B2B e-commerce supply chains, there are also considerable risks and challenges. Now, the procurement process and the supply chain. B2B e-commerce can be complex because there are so many ways the internet can be used to support the exchange of goods and payments among organizations, efficient supply chains, and collaboration. B2B digital e-commerce is about changing the procurement process. Now, the procurement process is how business firms purchase goods they need to produce goods they will ultimately sell to the customers or the consumers. One way to enter this area of internet-based B2B commerce is to examine the existing procurement business process. Now, figure 11.3 is going to show the procurement process. So while you're studying this chapter, make sure you take time to look at figure 11.3 on page 421. And once again, this is the 7 steps in the procurement process. Now, the procurement process is a lengthy and complicated series of steps that involves the seller, buyer, and shipping companies in a series of connected transactions. So the supply chain includes not just the firms themselves, but also the relationships among them and the processes that connect them. There are 7 separate steps in the procurement process, just as I mentioned, as is showed in a figure 11.3. The first 3 steps involve the decision of who to buy from and what to pay, searching for suppliers of specific products, qualifying both the seller and the products they sell, and negotiating prices, credit terms, escrow requirements, quality, and scheduling of delivery. Once a supplier is identified, purchase orders are issued. The buyer is sent an invoice, the goods are shipped, and the buyer sends a payment. Each of these steps in the procurement process is composed of many separate business processes and sub-activities. It's important to note that each of these activities must be recorded in the information systems of the seller, buyer, and shipper. So what are some types of procurement? 2 distinctions are important for understanding how B2B e-commerce can improve the procurement process. First, firms make purchases of 2 kinds of goods from suppliers: direct goods and indirect goods. Direct goods are goods integrally involved in the production process. So, for example, when an automobile manufacturer purchases sheet steel for auto body production. Indirect goods are all other goods not directly involved in the production process, such as office supplies and maintenance products. Often these goods are called MRO goods, products for maintenance, repair, and operations. Second, firms use two different methods for purchasing goods. They have contract purchasing and spot purchasing. Contract purchasing is going to involve long-term written agreements to purchase specified products with agreed upon terms and quality for an extended period of time. Now, generally, firms purchase direct goods using long-term contracts. Spot purchasing involves the purchase of goods based on immediate needs in larger marketplaces that involve many suppliers. Generally, firms use spot purchasing for indirect goods, although in some cases, firms also use spot purchasing for direct goods. Now, it is important to realize that firms purchase thousands of goods from thousands of suppliers. Large manufacturers such as Ford Motor Company have over 20,000 suppliers of parts, packaging, and technology. Now, the number of secondary suppliers is at least just as large as that their initial suppliers. Now, together, this extended multi-tier supply chain, which is the chain of primary, secondary suppliers, is going to constitute a crucial aspect of the industrial infrastructure of the economy. Figure 11.4 is going to depict the firm's multi-tier supply chain. And obviously, the supply chain for every firm is composed of multiple tiers of suppliers. So we can see here on figure 11.4, assuming a manufacturer has 4 primary suppliers, and each one has 3 primary suppliers, and each of these have 3 primary suppliers, then the total number of suppliers in the chain rises to 53. Now, figure 11.4, by looking at this, we can see that the procurement process involves a very large number of suppliers, each of whom must be coordinated with the production needs of the ultimate purchaser, the buying firm. Trends in supply chain management and collaborative commerce. Supply chain management refers to a wide variety of activities that firms and industries use to coordinate the key players in their procurement process. Today's procurement managers still work with telephones, email, fax machines, face-to-face conversations, and instinct, relying on trusted long-term suppliers for their strategic purchases of goods directly involved in the production process. There have been a number of major developments in supply chain management over the last 2 decades. These developments include just-in-time and lean production, supply chain simplification, adaptive supply chains, sustainable supply chains, electronic data interchange, known as EDI, supply chain management systems, and collaborative commerce. Now, just-in-time and lean production. One of the significant costs in any production process is the cost of in-process inventory, which consists of the parts and supplies needed to produce a product or service. Just-in-time production is a method of inventory cost management that seeks to eliminate excess inventory to a bare minimum. In just-in-time production, the parts needed for, say, an automobile arrive at the assembly factory a few hours or even minutes before they are attached to a car. Payment for the parts does not occur until the parts are attached to a vehicle on the production line. Lean production is a set of production methods and tools that focuses on the elimination of waste throughout the customer value chain. It is an extension of just-in-time beyond inventory management to the full range of activities that create customer value. Supply chain simplification. Many manufacturing firms have spent the past 2 decades reducing the size of their supply chains and working more closely with a smaller group of strategic supplier firms to reduce both product costs and administrative costs while improving quality. The automobile industry has systematically reduced the number of its suppliers by over 50%. Instead of open bidding for orders, large manufacturers have chosen to work with strategic partner supply firms under long-term contracts that guarantee the supplier business and also establish quality, costs, and timing goals. These strategic partnerships programs are essential for just-in-time production models and often involve joint product development and design, integration of computer systems, and tight coupling of the production processes of two or more companies. Tight coupling is a method for ensuring that suppliers precisely deliver the ordered parts at a specific time to a particular location. This ensures the production process is not interrupted for lack of parts. Next, supply chain black swans, adaptive supply chains. While firms have greatly simplified their supply chains in the last decade, they have also sought to centralize them by adopting a single global supply chain system that is going to integrate all the firm's vendor and logistic information into a single enterprise-wide system. Beginning in earnest in 2000, managers in developed countries used these new technological capabilities to push manufacturing and production to the lowest cost labor regions in the world, specifically China and Southeast Asia. There were many risks and costs of this strategy of concentrating production in China and Asia in a world of economic, financial, political, and even geological instability. In the global financial crisis from 2007 to 2009, relying on suppliers in parts of Europe, where currencies and interest rates fluctuated greatly, exposed many firms to higher costs than anticipated. Suddenly, key suppliers could not obtain financing or their production of shipments, or suppliers couldn't obtain financing for their production or shipments. In March 2011, following the earthquake and tsunami in Japan, key suppliers in Japan were going to be forced to shut down or even slow production because of nuclear contamination of the entire Fukushima region where, as it turns out, major Japanese and American firms had automobile part factories. As a result, General Motors could no longer obtain transmissions for its Volt electric car and had to shut down a truck factory in Louisiana due to the lack of parts from Japan. In October of 2011, torrential rains in Thailand led to flooding of many of its key industrial regions and the wiping out of a significant share of the world's electronic components, from hard disk drives to automobile subsystems, cameras, and notebook PCs. By 2012, the risk and cost of extended and concentrated supply chains had begun to change corporate strategies. To cope with unpredictable world events, firms taking steps to break up single global supply chain systems into regional or product-based supply chains, with some level of centralization but substantial autonomy for the smaller systems. Using regional supply chains, firms can decide to locate some production of parts in Latin America rather than all their production or suppliers in a single country such as Japan. Now, this may result in higher short-term costs, but provide a substantial longer-term risk protection in the event of any single region being disrupted. So the focus in 2012 shifted to optimal cost, not low cost, in terms of their supply chains. Regional manufacturing means shorter supply chains that can respond rapidly to changing customer taste and demand levels. I'm gonna stop here on the bottom of page 424. On Wednesday, we're going to pick up with accountable supply chains, labor standards, and cover another third of the chapter. And then Friday, we will finish the last third of the chapter. Once again, remember I did not post chapter 10 homework last week, so I will be posting it this week. I will also be posting chapter 11 homework this week, and we'll be giving you all of Thanksgiving break to get these homework assignments in. They will be due the week following Thanksgiving break, and once again we are through all the content from the book. The only thing left now is the content from the 2 videos with Jeff Bezos and Mark Zuckerberg. Once again, I appreciate everyone's time, and I will see everyone on Wednesday.